Welcome to the Slade Ham Experiment. Hi, everybody. I'm Slade Ham. I'm your host from the Midnight Spaceship. It's a little lit up. It's kind of like the spaceship is coming in on its final descent. You know, the plane lights come on right there at the end. They wake everybody up. You want some coffee? You want one of these terrible breakfast sandwiches? Probably bring up the flights here again in a minute. Tonight's a catch-all. It's a potluck. It's a grab bag episode. I got a lot of things I want to talk about, none of them really in particular. It is the tail end of my Kickstarter campaign. I'll tell you more about that towards the end of the episode, but you should have another day or so. I'm putting this episode out a day early. Going to let you get an extra crack at that if you want to join me in the making of my brand new comedy special. Hey, I would love to have you. My birthday was Saturday. That was a lovely day. It's really good. A lot of people sent gifts and thank yous. Why would they thank me on my birthday? Gifts and happy birthdays. The gratitude is all mine as we go into this Kickstarter. It's very close to done right now, so I'm resting easy. One of the things I got for my birthday, this teacup. It'll come back up here in a second. Thank you, by the way, Mary, for the gift too. That leads me to something I do want to talk about. I got some new tea, and I was trying to place it. I'm really exploratory when it comes to what I drink, coffee and tea right now. I'm into a lot of weird stuff. I've been that way. If you guys follow the podcast, you know. So I get this tea that looks like raisins. It looks like coffee beans. I can't quite place it. So I make some. We're sitting on my couch. I'm drinking it, and I go, let me Google this. Let me figure out what this is. And it's called Cascara. Now, if you just Google Cascara, it it can be scary, and that's what I was trying to do. Actual Cascara is a different thing. It's poisonous. It kills you. It does stuff to your GI tract. But the Cascara berry that they make tea out of is what I actually learned something about. And then I suddenly, after the giggle on the couch, was like, okay, I'm not being poisoned. I knew you weren't poisoning me. I didn't know what it was. So here's something new. Coffee cherry tea, if you're unfamiliar with this. The tea I got was from Carabello's. I'm assuming made with their coffee, a Kentucky institution. Coffee cherry tea, I'm reading from the Wikipedia page, is an herbal tea made from the dried skins and or pulp of the fruit of the coffee plant that remain after the coffee beans have been collected from within. It's known as cascara, from the Spanish word cascara, meaning husk. Okay, so I did not know that this was something that could be done. What they do is they take the husks of the coffee bean, the berry. I don't know much of this at all. And then they dry that. And then you brew a tea out of it. So it's got a high caffeine concentration. And it tastes nothing like coffee. Like it's a raisiny, herbally sort of, I don't know. Something I've never had it before. And I'm grateful. So, Mary, when you sent your gift, there were a number of great things in there that I'm incredibly grateful for. But you also sent, while you were in Louisville at the shows, you stopped by a museum there, and they had some prompts. And then you included in there your answers to some of these travel prompts. And one of them you challenged me to answer back. Now, I probably won't get to all of them, but this one does lead me right into this next thing. So, share an experience you've had of an artwork, another culture, or place that changed your perspectives on life. That's a heavy task. Changed my perspectives on a big level. I'll have to think about it. But one of the things that is really kind of stuck with me, and Japan hammered it home. So I'm sitting here in front of me, right? There were two gifts that I received for my birthday, both from Japan. One of them, this coffee cup that comes from the Musubi kiln. And it comes with, one, a letter on the paper is exquisite. It looks like you can't see this on the camera, and I won't attempt to recreate it in a photograph. But the paper's texture, it feels like it has like silver strands run through it. Is that how you would describe this paper, maybe? Like, it's the kind of paper elves would make in Lord of the Rings. You know, the ones who had the kind of elves who make those ornate wooden banisters. You know the elves I'm talking about? They have boats, they wear helmets, and everything's very sleek and intertwined. This is the kind of paper they'd use. In this, and I'll come back to this one also, one written on origami paper, handwritten entirely in Japanese and English, and a thank you for a gift that you'd think to get something like this in America, you would have to buy a car or a house. And a good car, probably a foreign car, probably not an American car if you want an extra gift. The time taken on this, and it's very specifically written. It references Texas. This is not some stamp. And in the gift from the kiln, it was wrapped exquisitely. When I went to the kiln that I went to, or the pottery that I went to when I was in Japan, in Kyoto, I didn't buy an expensive teapot. I bought a decent, and they took it back to the counter, and then they box it all up in its nice, neat little box, and then they wrap it like a Christmas gift in this perfect paper, and they hand it to you and they bow. So when this cup comes from the kiln, it's wrapped in a cloth so perfectly, tight edges, like a military, like a grunt, like a soldier in boot camp, folded the edges on this. Hospital corners like you've never seen. Perfectly folded, wrapped, and then tied in this perfect little knot, like a neat little bindle, and the wrapping is paper, not paper, it's cloth. It's like cloth paper. And then they even tell you about it in here. It's called furoshiki. The furoshiki that comes with the products has been passed down in Japan for 1,200 years and has been widely used in Japan as a tool for conveying feelings, such as wrapping important items and gifts for loved ones. Are you kidding me? And this is all in stuff just bought and shipped here. When was the last time you got, that's my point, is as I look at the way some cultures handle customer service, hospitality, the way they treat other people by default, I'm reminded how terribly we do it. Every airline overseas, it doesn't matter where you're going. I've mentioned this before. Everyone, no matter what, no matter where you're going, if the plane takes off and is in the air for any period of time whatsoever, they bring you a snack. Water and a snack. I took a 30-minute flight from Athens to Crete. They brought me a sandwich and water. They like a king. And they're in a hurry, too. It's like they're like the gun goes off. They hit 10,000 feet, and they just sprint down the aisle, throwing you stuff, pouring waters, throwing you stuff, and then they run right back up and collect everything. But they make sure they do it. The last 2 flights I've been on with United, I'm going to poke at you every chance I get, United. I'm still going to take you because this is a hub, and I have very little I can do about it. But terrible. I've been upgraded twice to first class. And both times they had to apologize to me because they didn't have anything to give you. They used to feed you. You used to get breakfast on a plane. Pancakes would come, waffles would come, a little bit of bacon. So first class would hook you up. Now what they do is they pass around the sad consolation basket. Oh, we're so sorry we didn't have time to load up the plane with the food we thought we were gonna. They always say that. Oh, so sorry. It's just today. It's this every time. Then they pass around this basket that's got it'll have 2 bags of potato chips. It'll have 2 candy bars. It'll have 2 apples. And everybody in first class just has to take their pick of what's there. And by the time it gets back to you, because you're the last seat of first class, because you don't really belong there, you just got upgraded because you got miles and stuff, or status or whatever they're tracking at the moment. That'll be gone by next year because there's no way to keep up with it. But you're sitting there when they get to you, oh, so sorry. Would you like to touch the empty basket, sir? And feel more privileged than the people in the back who aren't allowed to touch the empty basket. And I'm like, they gave me a sandwich on a 30-minute flight when I was in Greece. All of that, seeing that hospitality, seeing the care put into packages, seeing the handwritten notes on pieces. This is good origami paper, by the way. I'm not saying I know origami paper better than most people know origami paper, but I know origami paper better than most people know origami paper. I used to have a thing for origami when I was a kid. So that changes me in little ways. It makes me less tolerant of how casual we are with it here, and it makes me much, much, much more appreciated for the places in the world that actually take the time to show you a little bit of extra love and care. So, cheers to you guys. My birthday was wonderful. I'm excited that the Kickstarter's doing well. More about that at the end of the episode. It's almost done. I put this out a day early so you guys that were missing it could get involved. What else did I get? It's all about fans today. It's all about you guys and stuff you send me. Complex marshmallow. I got a bone to pick with you. Sisu, not that great. Recommendation. A Whiskey Brothers fan sends a, and I'm grateful for it, for the recommendation. Right? Usually, you guys are spot on. Sisu, if you're unfamiliar, I'll read the synopsis. Straight from Wikipedia. Sisu, S-I-S-U. Complex, you weren't the only one who sent this to me. It's been sent to me by 3 or 4 friends. It's actually ongoing in a couple of text threads, and all of them have said it's spectacular. And so last night, I gear up. I don't go watch it. I don't go watch it in the theater. I straight up pirate it, being perfectly honest. If it was good, I'd have driven right down to the theater and given them my money. But according to Wikipedia, Sisu is a 2023 historical action film written and directed by Jalmari Helander. Set in Finnish Lapland during World War II, the film follows a former legendary Finnish commando and gold prospector who attempts to secure his stolen gold and defend himself from a German death squad led by a brutal SS officer. All of that is true. If you watch the trailer's easy to watch. It's about 2.5 minutes long. You've seen the movie. The first hour of the movie is the trailer. I don't want to ruin this for you if you want to go see it. I'm not going to ruin the end. There's some stuff in the movie that doesn't make it in the trailer. But you've seen it before. You've seen every last bit of this before, except you haven't seen it in Finland. That's the And it makes me angry because this is a good film. This is a good film. What you recommended to me is actually flawless. It's fun. It's pointless. It's action-packed. It's gory in the right places, and you celebrate it in the right places, and it doesn't leave you nervous or worried or ever. It does all the right. It's very, very much like Taken in that respect, which makes it very much like John Wick, which makes it very much like Man on Fire, which makes it very much, I would say, like Rambo. These are great movies, but this is part Tarantino, part Sergio Leone, part Rambo, part Jaws. That makes sense if you see the movie. There's one scene. It borrows liberally from the best of everything. It doesn't pretend to be anything it's not. The bad guys are not morally ambiguous. There are no anti-heroes. You don't, for any moment, question who's on which side. You pull for the right people and you pull against the right people. And they do a good job of creating. This is something in film that's fun when you create an unwinnable scenario for your hero and then we get to watch him get out of it. That's a blast, right? That's normally in a movie you get one of those. Towards the end, they create a no-win scenario and the hero gets out of it. It's great. Guardians of the Galaxy does that really well. In this case, they do a bunch of them. There's good, gory death scenes. They figure out creative ways to kill people, yet you have seen it all before. So much so that it ceases to be rewarding. It's like if you ate steak every single day for your entire life. every meal 3 times a day, and then you sat down and they pulled out the prime cut filet mignon cooked by the best chef in the world, and the right temperature, and the wood came from magic trees in Africa, and the salt came from a certain flat in Europe, and they went down to South America and got the fork you eat off of, and they put the perfect meal together, and you're still like, I mean, steak every day. How South American can the salt be? That's how I felt watching this. It's got a 94% positive rating out of 142 critics on Rotten Tomatoes. It's rightfully liked. It's boring based on what else you've seen. That's why I come back to RRR being the best thing I've seen in I don't know how long. This is like watching Rambo. If you've never seen Rambo, and you've never seen Taken, and you've never seen John Wick, you've never seen any of these movies where someone is wronged or had something taken from them, and then they go on a death march to just kill everyone in the general vicinity of those people, then you've seen it before. But if you've never seen those before, it's fantastic. The problem is, if this had come out in the 80s, if this had come out around, when we saw Rambo, that's why Rambo was so great. First Blood. If this had come out in the 80s, this would be a perfect movie. But technological advancement has put us in a position where anybody can make this movie. I think the budget on this thing was like $6 million. They shot it in Lapland. I don't know if that makes things cheaper or more expensive. I really don't know. It's not a heavy budget because most of the stuff you're doing can be done relatively cheaply now. So it's a celebration in that regard. It's cool that it's getting that kind of attention, but we're in this world of overwhelm, and I hate to dwell on all that, but there's a reason we're not wowed by anything anymore. Marvel bores us. Star Wars bores us. Sisu bored me. Star Wars was great when there were about 8 hours worth of film. Now there's hundreds. 2016. No, that's a lie. 216 shows in 2010. That's the number of scripted shows that were available on American television in 2010. There were 216 shows. Now, in 2021, I believe there were 550. That's double. It's more than you can possibly watch, and that is just scripted shows in America. That doesn't include anything they're porting over from all of these other countries. It doesn't include anything reality TV and unscripted. Thousands of those shows. And all of that makes it difficult to figure out what you like to watch. It also makes it difficult for anything to stand out because you're watching everything, because there's no way there's 550 shows released every year and you're not having some form of FOMO, right? There's a fear of missing out. Everybody's talking about this. You got to watch this. You suck in so much stuff. You don't even remember what happens. Even the good stuff. The Dungeons & Dragons movie that just came out. It's a good movie. It's fun. Have a couple of creative scenes. It's not bad. Nice little throwback, weirdly, to the cartoon I was talking about last week, the D&D cartoon. They gave a nice little subtle nod to that I didn't know about. But halfway through, I got a little tired. I fell asleep. I watched the rest of it the next day. I went to start it over, and I could not remember what had happened. It wasn't because it wasn't good. It was just because I'd seen so many other weird shows or things similar in the last couple of weeks or months that I was having memories. I was thinking that the bad guy was someone similar to the High Evolutionary from the last Guardians movie. I thought he was a little bit like Kang from Ant-Man. He's not like any of those. I just had parts of those in my head, and then a little bit from the Willow show that came on Disney Plus. All of that just marinating in my head. So when I turned the TV back on and I saw the people, I couldn't remember who was who, and that's a problem. It's too much stuff. Too many things. You throw on top of that 3.2 million podcasts on the air right now. And you tell me how you're supposed to sort through any of that and find anything worthwhile. And if you do find something worthwhile, how's it even going to really stand out? Because you've seen so much bad but similar stuff. And it's a good movie. It's worth seeing. I appreciate the recommendation. I'm not mad I watched it. I just wish it had. I just want better. I want more stuff. What else do I have? 2 stories in the news that caught me. If I have time, I'll get to the McDonald's one. They both involve people complaining. It's always people complaining. On Saturday, a Carnival ship, the Sunshine, was coming back into Charleston, South Carolina. Lovely Charleston, actually. Really good place to get some crab pots. Good seafood. Different kind of seafood. Boiled shrimp, boiled crab, Old Bay. Not quite the same as the Northeast. Different kind of good. Also not the same as the Gulf Coast. Also not the same as Florida seafood. A lot of different kinds of seafood in America. Charleston has some good stuff. Anyway, cruise ship coming back in. Hit some weather, 12-foot waves. It happens. You're on a ship. I've been reading the complaints from these people. One dude, I wish I had them saved. I was listening to them. I can relay them. I will try to be honest. One couple complaining about the fact that she was already sick. She already sick. Had a fever. Wasn't feeling good. That's when the waves came. They were like, we had to stay in our cabin the whole time. Yeah, you had a fever on a cruise ship. You should have stayed in your cabin whether the waves came or not. We just didn't get to enjoy any of the buffets or go anywhere at all. No, you didn't. You got sick on a ship, and then the waves came and they asked you to go back to your room. You're on a ship. I worked for Carnival for a stretch. Right before the pandemic, my good buddy Billy D. Washington helped get me on as a comedian on the ships. And I was doing some runs for them. The pandemic happened. I haven't been back out since. It's TBD whether or not I will. But I can speak to the experience of being on a cruise ship. And when you're on a ship, the ship is on water. And sometimes water gets waves. And these aren't predictable things. They're generally governed by things like the tides and weather patterns and the moon and all this other scientific stuff I don't understand. And if I don't understand it, I've been on a lot of ships. I bet this dude definitely doesn't understand it. So maybe it's not his fault. But bro, if you're getting on a ship, I would do a little bit of homework. I would think that seasickness might be a possibility. I would think that bad weather might be a possibility. If I wasn't willing to accept that as a possibility, perhaps I would think of a different place to go. I wouldn't go on a cruise ship for my vacation with my often sick wife, guy. And the news is just sucking it up. A cruise ship today delivered passengers the worst experience of their life. You know how they sensationalize everything. And then you could tell by the answers of the people they interviewed, they're just leading them. So was there any part of the cruise ship you didn't get? They don't ever show you that. They don't ever show you the questions the news reporters ask anyone. You just see the answers. But something to pay attention to, when people are interviewed, they're often told to repeat the question a little bit at the beginning, right? So, or include it in their answer. So if you hear someone go, well, there were lots of things we didn't get to enjoy, for instance, that's generally a response to a reporter going, so was there anything you didn't really enjoy about this nightmare cruise? And they're just seeding it with negative words and trying to get you to say something soundbitey. So yeah, I'm sure it sucked for a lot of people, but it was basically just waves coming in to the port. Don't take it out on the cruise ships. They showed some footage of some water in some of the hallways. I assure you that's from the bottom 3 or 4 decks where they stash all the crew. It's a terrible place to stay. It's under the water surface. I'm sure a porthole broke or something went sideways and it flooded. It's a nightmare down there anyway. It's just weird diseases and Romanian women and angry Russian bartenders and a hodgepodge of food that's been repurposed from the buffets before the cruise, so it's curry and tamarind everything. It's a weird world down below the decks of a cruise ship. I'm sure that was flooded. I'm sure that may be how they wash the bottom decks. I missed that element. There was something a little wild about being down there on the ships. I'm just over the complaining culture that complain, speak your piece, say what you do. I do it. Make your own show. It's a fun place to bitch and moan. But also, formal complaints, going on TV, making a big scene about something that is just a part of it, buddy. It's just waves and water out there on the ocean. Expect that next time. Can't believe there was all this road out there when I took my car out. You idiot. This last story's the same thing. I try not to dislike people as so much, but man, y'all make it hard. McDonald's, again, I shouldn't care that someone's out there suing corporations like this, but I know on the inside it's somehow making my life more difficult. It has to be. Overall, it's got to have that effect. More expensive, more difficult, more something. What happened here? Fort Lauderdale, Florida. McDonald's and a franchise holder are at fault after a hot chicken McNugget from a Happy Meal fell on a little girl's leg and caused second-degree burns. That should upset me. It does upset me. I don't want to see a little girl burn, especially not a 4-year-old. Thursday's decision, this was a week or so ago, was split, with jurors finding the franchise holder liable for negligence and failure to warn customers about the risk of hot food. And they're liable for failing to provide instructions for safe handling of the food. They were not negligent in the product being defective. Okay, that's the jury. Good for you, jury. Came to terms with the fact that the Chicken McNugget worked like it was supposed to. It wasn't a defective product. God, where do they find you? 12. Then you go ahead and you find McDonald's liable. What happened, I think? Let's see if this is in here. The prosecution, the woman complaining, the complainee, testified that she bought Happy Meals for her son and her 4-year-old daughter at a drive-through window near Fort Lauderdale. Then she handed the food to her children who were in the back seat. After she drove away, her daughters started screaming. The mother testified she didn't know what was wrong until she pulled over to help the girl, who is now 7. Okay, this must have happened 3 years ago. She saw the burn on the girl's leg and took photos on her iPhone, which included audio clips of the child's screams. That's astounding. You didn't go to get help? You took pictures first. Okay. They played sounds of the girl's screams in court. Good Christ, they made y'all listen to that? Children screaming. Lawyers for McDonald's noted that the food had to be hot to avoid salmonella poisoning and that the nuggets were not meant to be pressed between a seatbelt and human flesh for more than 2 minutes. I'm not laughing at the 4-year-old burn. It's not the part I'm laughing at. The girl's parents sued, saying McDonald's and the franchise owner failed to adequately train employees, failed to warn customers about the dangerous temperature of the food, and for cooking the food to a much higher temperature than necessary. While both sides agreed the nugget caused the burns, yes, probably not. Yes, there was a nugget-shaped burn on the girl. I don't. What are our expectations of the places we frequent? We have to revisit this. We have to think about it. We got to take some accountability for ourselves. We have to stop blaming other people for the things we do to us or to our kids when we hand them boiling fried chicken skin and just unchaperoned and then photograph them for a while before we take them to medical attention. They'll get millions. I'm still trying to get thousands. Go to my Kickstarter. It's up right now. Runs for another day. I think it runs to the middle of June 2nd. Might be June 1st. That means you should hurry. Kickstarter.com. Search Slade Ham. You can also go to all my social media. It's going to give you links over to that because I've been a bit more obnoxious than I wanted to be. I think that's everything. If you enjoy it, click sub. I do these once a week. Slade Runner episodes sometimes supersede them, but I will be back out on the road, live and in person. Find me all sorts of places. Colorado Springs at the end of June and July. I'm going to be in some spots in Texas and then off to Canada. That's right, Ottawa and Toronto. I'm coming back for you. Those are the warm-up sets as I get ready to film Signal to Noise, my new comedy special, available everywhere, I promise. Hopefully in 2023. You guys are amazing. I'll see you on another episode soon.